sRGB color pipeline. In 1996, Hewlett-Packard and Microsoft came up with the color space sRGB, and it was industry-wide accepted for the display of images on monitors, printers, and the Internet. To compensate for CRT display limitations, all images had a gamma applied to them of 2.2, or the sRGB color space. This is now true for Windows and most Linux machines. It is interesting to note that we are now dealing with data as could be represented by the middle diagram, and yet still only being able to display it at any one time in the bottom diagram. sRGB is a very efficient way to store and view data. The image on the left is a linear scene-referred image with no additional gamma. This means that the data, as accurately as possible, represents the brightness in the scene. The image on the right is the same scene, but it has now had the sRGB gamma of 2.2 applied to it. This is so that it now refers to the viewing device and looks correct. Below these two images are two strips of 32 colours each, evenly taken from the range of 256 colours available to 8-bit images. However, if we look at the strip of colours on the left, we do not perceive them to be of equal difference in tone. This is because our eyes are designed to operate in daylight and also in darkness, so we are very good at being able to differentiate tones in a dark scene and a daylight scene, but we have much less skill at differentiating subtle tonal variations in an extremely bright scene. Let us think about this sRGB image in a little more detail. It has now had this gamma operation applied to it. Now, a gamma operation is not an overall brightness affecting all pixels equally. It's a more complex operation which leaves the bright whites and the dark blacks untouched and boosts the middle tones. This image is now perceptually correct. It looks right, but mathematically incorrect. All of the midtones have a higher value than they should if they were to accurately represent the scene. So this may cause us problems in compositing later. Now let's look at our linear image and just think about that for a little moment. With this linear image we have data as close as possible to the original scene, mathematically correct, but visually incorrect. This means that we need to look at this data with a lookup, but it's also very good because we can also work with it mathematically and get correct results. I have a very simple demonstration here of the advantages of doing your compositing operations with the sRGB removed and then put on again at the end so that it can be viewed correctly. Yet again I'm using this image from Bill Spitzak's website because it is ideal for this. Okay, first of all I'm going to put the gamma operations on the right hand side just so we can double check everything's good. Nodes, colour, gamma, a bit off the screen for you lot I'm afraid. And this one I'm going to do 1 divided by 2.2, which is gamma removed. So now this image is as close as possible to the original scene data. These levels of brightness should be as accurate as possible. And Control C, Control V, and now I'm going to put back that sRGB lookup here, so I'm just going to get rid of that and just put in 2.2. And now I'm going to load this one into viewer A. Excellent, and then hit viewer B and this one. And yes, I'm tabbing between them and they're exactly the same. And it's worth noting that, you know, in an ideal world this would be in a linear float, and then we could do these operations without any worry about damaging our image. But we can see here that these images are exactly the same. Okay, so this one, right click, nodes, filter, blur. Let's make this nice and out of focus. So the blur has been applied to the sRGB image, so we can see it here correctly and gets the blur correctly. Excellent. And then here we've taken off the sRGB and we're going to apply the blur in a more mathematically accurate way because there's no sRGB getting in the way. Copy, V, same blur node with a blur of 20, and let's just put that in there, and I should be able to just tab between them here. Okay, so A contains our blur with sRGB, and you can see it's quite soft and a bit mushy. If we go to B, our highlights have got this little nice round thing going on, and we've got much more of the highlights going on in here. It seems that lots of these have been lost in the sRGB one. Can you see this row of lights here? They're just completely gone. So, very simple but very dramatic proof of the advantages of doing your compositing operations in as mathematically correct manner as possible.